Hi guys, welcome to Simply Scuba. So in this video, we're gonna have a look at how to change a regulator hose. So this is super easy. Some might say barely an inconvenience, and it's just anybody can do it. Whether you're replacing a broken hose, whether you want to fit a certain color hose to match the rest of your set, a different length hose, it's all the same procedure and it's all really, really easy. So let's have a look about how. Okay, so there's only a couple tools that you'll need to change a hose, and they are wrenches or spanners, depending on where you come from. So it's always best to have a fixed spanner because the adjustable ones, they're fine, but the downside is that that lower jaw moves, and you've got to make sure that it's nice and snug, because if you have too much movement in that, as you go to tighten it or loosen it, you can sort of damage the nut and kind of round off those edges, which doesn't look good, especially on sort of chrome plated brass. It's really obvious when you damage a nut. But with the fixed ones, you have to make sure that you get the right size. If you're upper size, then you can get too much wiggle room. So this one, when it goes on, it fits perfectly. You get a small amount of wiggle, that's fine. But if it's wiggling a little bit too much, then yeah, you're going to damage that nut. So some are imperial fittings and some are metric. This one, for example, is 11/16, but a lot of the time you can get a 14 mil or a 15 mil. It just depends on your regulator. So we're going to look at the second stage end of the regulator hose first. And what you'll see on a lot of second stages is that you'll have the nut that attaches onto the hose itself, and then you'll have some kind of nut that attaches or is part of the second stage. So that's very important, because you don't really want to just take it off of the second stage with a single spanner, because that's going to turn and sort of affect the barrel, the sort of working parts on the inside of that second stage. So it's always best to get a second spanner. I'm using an adjustable on this because this has quite a large nut on it. So fit it to the hose and make sure it's really nice and snug so that there's no wiggle room. And then with the other spanner, just get it on that. If you can, sort of crunch them together or move them apart if you're taking it off. Unscrew the rest by hand. And that's that part done. So yeah, super easy. And then the other side of the hose has a slightly different fitting. So this is the bit that attaches onto the first stage. So this, again, that one doesn't fit, so we're going to use a larger 11. So with that, you can use the body of the first stage to undo that. And they're only tightened up to about sort of 4.5 or 5 Newton meters. So it's nice, it's just basically finger tight and then a little nudge just to tighten it up. So this, most sort of first stages are 3/8 UNF. So you screw that in, and that will be quite a small fitting. On very few regulators, older Apeks and some Mares regulators, you get a 1/2 inch. So that's much, much larger. You can measure the size of this thread literally with a tape measure. Just measure sort of how wide it is, and that will tell you what size sort of hose you need. We have done a blog on this. We'll put a link to that in the comments below, just so that you know exactly which hose that you need to buy. Okay, so fitting a new hose, again, just kind of screw it in by hand, and you just want to get it finger tight. And then once it's finger tight, you get your spanner, and then you should do it with a torque wrench, but all you're going to do is just a little nip, and that's it. You basically want it so tight that you can't unscrew it by hand. And that just sort of holds it in. If you do it too much, you're going to damage those threads. A lot of it is just marine grade brass, so it's quite a soft metal. You don't want to damage those threads, so you just want to nip it up just a tiny little bit. The other side, as you can imagine, you screw it in, and then you're going to tighten it up, but using 2 spanners this time. So very much the same way. Use your adjustable and then tighten it up so that you don't damage the nut. And then just a little tighten, and that's it. So tight that you can't take it off by hand, but not so tight that you're gonna damage those threads. So that's that one done. Very, very easy. Okay, so there are some exceptions to this rule. So Scubapro is the first one. Scubapro don't use a traditional shaped nut, that kind of hexagon shape. They use a high torque nut. So this requires a special tool. It is available on our website, but you can get it elsewhere. You might have one in your toolbox, but don't use a pair of pliers. Again, because this is marine grade or chrome plated brass. So if you use a pair of pliers, you're just gonna damage that. You'll see the brass coming through. It doesn't look great, and you can damage this fitting. And then you get some others like the Apeks Flight. They have a very specific, it's kind of a ratchet style fitting. You don't need any tools to do it, but yeah, you just kind of use your hands just to tighten that up. Okay, so that was a quick look at how to change a regulator hose, but let us know what your favorite hose is in the comments. I know it sounds boring, but are you a rubber hose guy, or do you go for more of a braided hose? It's very much up in the air right now as to which is more popular, so let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and safe diving. We are an online dive store serving the UK and the world for all your diving equipment needs. So why not visit us at simplyscuba.com or click the box on your screen.